Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully you can see and hear us. If not, let us know in chat. But assuming that you can, we are so excited to have you here at InFocus 2020, our EMEA track, to be talking about, from challenges to solutions, building a DevOps powerhouse. Next slide. So I am one of your hosts today. My name is Shira Marks, and I'm a senior product marketing manager here at GitHub. And I really focus on you guys in this call, our enterprise audience, and the culture and thought leadership it takes to create that real DevOps experience. And I am joined today by Tug, one of our principal solutions engineers. Tug, do you want to introduce yourself really quick?
Sure. So as a solution engineer, I'm helping people using GitHub and enterprise using GitHub to do a better job and improving their development cycles, their development process. And this is typically what we want to share with you today.
And Tug was being a little bit honest, or modest, I should say. In addition to being one of our amazing principal solutions engineers, he has a background in development. So he's been there, he's done it, he's had those feelings, he's wanted to pull his hair out the same as you. So we are really excited to join. So a few sort of housekeeping items kind of about what's going to happen today and this amazing Goldcast video platform we're on. Our goal today is for this to be a conversation. Tug and I talk to each other all the time. We don't need to talk to each other anymore. We're really here to talk to you. And there's a couple of ways that we can do that. One is through chat. So you can go ahead, share, like, comment, chat with your peers in the chat function on the right-hand side of your screen. You can also raise your hand to come on video and talk with us, share your opinion. There will be times where if you put something in chat, we may call on you to come on video if you are comfortable. Throughout the session, we're going to be participating in a few different polls to understand who's in the room and where you're at and what your DevOps maturity model looks like. And of course, if at any point in this conversation, you're starting to say, hey, it sounds like, a true DevOps conversation, a DevOps culture conversation, or a GitHub conversation could really help. On the top of your screen, kind of on the right side, there's a request a demo button. You can just click that and it'll get you everything you need for us to be back in touch with you. So remember, conversation. We are here to learn from you, to talk to you. You're here to learn and talk to each other. So be sure to participate in chat, raise your hands, come on video. I have been challenged. I have a secret number in my head on the number of people I'm trying to get on video. So we're going to all work together to see if I can get that done. So let's get into it, shall we? All right. We are here to, Tug.
No, just let's go.
Are we having fun yet? Yeah. Amazing. So you're just going to hear from me for a few more minutes, and then we'll start to hear from Tug and from all of you. But to set the stage a little bit, let's talk about DevOps. So sometimes, when you're out in the market or you're sort of on websites, you think DevOps, oh, it's just tools, it's technologies, it's CI/CD, it's this, it's that, it's all of these different little pieces. But we here at GitHub believe so profoundly that DevOps is so much more than just tools. And there are three major elements of DevOps that we want to dig into today. And keep in mind, these are not the only elements of DevOps, but these are ones that we feel are so important and that GitHub can really help you with. The first is creating a collaborative organizational culture, because culture defines how we work. It defines how we work together. It defines how we work alone. It defines the way that our work gets done. And creating an organizational culture that's collaborative, that has people working together, is going to allow you and your teams to bring the best ideas to the forefront in that true, Renaissance public square way. The second is automation and technology. we really want to focus on how can you take that collaborative culture and elevate it so it's also an efficient culture that's built on the right tools for your automation. So you're not redoing the same work over and over again. You're not doing manual work you don't have to do. When things go wrong, they're either automatically alerted or fixed. That's going to lead to better, higher quality, secure code. And finally, we're going to focus on ongoing process improvements. We want to say there is no way to get this right. There's ways to get this better. And hopefully every day at GitHub, we do it a little better. Hopefully every day at your companies, we do it a little better. But every day we're going to learn from the successes and the failures of what we've done in the past. And that culture change to collaborative, automated, and one that is focused on improvements ongoing is really how we're going to get there. I think we need to go to the next slide in the other direction. Perfect. Just one more slide for me, and then we can start this conversation. I love to go around and talk about how amazing and incredible a DevOps culture is and how we can make it and what it looks like. But let's be real. We need to understand why. Who cares? Well, there are so many benefits of a strong DevOps platform, but there are a few I want to focus on. One is this developer experience, which comes from increased developer productivity, which usually leads to developer happiness, and a true sense of belonging through that collaborative culture, saying, I am part of this team. My presence here matters to this team. This team matters to me. That's going to lead to happier devs who are doing the work that they find meaningful in a community that they find meaningful. And frankly, in the time of 2020, the great resignation, it's going to help your developers stay and be happy. Next, we have high quality, secure code built with automations. So what's going to happen when you have happier developers with a better developer experience? You're going to get better code. And that's really what we're all here for, to help you and your teams get better code that's error-free, bug-free, secure the first time with reduced manual effort and reduced redundant work through automations. And all of this, we got to get to that key business outcome here, because that's what we're here for, right? That's what InFocus is, our enterprise event. We're going to have faster time to market and lower production risk, which leads to that higher revenue, lower cost, and lower risk that we're always searching for. So once again, when we think about the benefits of a strong DevOps practice, it's not just something that us over here at GitHub like to chit chat about because it makes us feel good inside. It has this real profound business effect. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Tug, and we're going to get into sort of the conversational and sharing and best practices part of this conversation.
Thanks, Shira. So one of the first steps, or one of the first things when we talk about DevOps is really, as you mentioned, set up a specific culture, a way people will collaborate together. And for this, it's really how do you define and how do you organize your enterprise, your teams to share the same kind of goals regarding the better time to market, regarding the security, and so on. An example here is we have multiple teams in an organization, in a company, from the core JavaScript developers, from the security expert or product management, product marketing team. We need to be sure, and this is one of the key points when you want to start your process and start your DevOps journey, they have a good communication. You put in place collaborations. For example, having the security and operation teams working with the developer, so coming from the DevOps term. Make sure that you will have an understanding from the development of the challenges that the operation team has or used to have, just to be sure that when they deploy application, when they build their application, it's making that very, very easy and fast. So before going into more example, I think it's interesting to ask you first, Paul, where I would like to know, and Shira and myself would like to know in which type of team you are working. So I will stop sharing my slide and get a survey for you.
So Angelica, one of our colleagues who is helping us out, is going to go ahead and put out a poll that's asking about what your current team is. So if Angelica, we could see that poll, please. Awesome. Are we seeing it? Awesome. There we go. So if we can go ahead and have you fill out, we would love to know who is in the room right now, so that we can understand what are all of these different teams that are part of the DevOps process and the DevOps culture. So we'll give you about maybe 5 more seconds, and then we'll go ahead and we'll tug it down and get ready for us to call on, ask for input from people all across the different teams that we're seeing on it, expectedly a lot of product development and engineers, a couple security experts, and so on. I think we can close the poll now, Angelica. We would love to say, okay, so we know that there's a lot of you in the room right now. We want to hear from you. When is a time, can you give us an example of times that collaboration has really improved the DevOps process, or a lack of collaboration has really hindered you, and how you sort of took advantage of the DevOps culture to help you get a little bit further? So we do have a question in the poll that I do want to address. And the question is GitHub not adopting new terminology on DevSecOps? That is a really great question, and you're just one day too early. All of tomorrow is about DevSecOps. Security brings in a whole new sort of element, a whole new ballgame that we want to take really, really seriously. So we sometimes use DevOps and we sometimes use DevSecOps depending on the situation and what problems we're trying to solve. But DevSecOps is absolutely terminology we use. We are focused so incredibly going forward on security. But you know what? That is an April 28th problem. So if you join us for our sessions we'll talk about tomorrow, those are going to be 100% DevSecOps the whole time. So getting back to it, while we're waiting for some people to sort of raise their hand or share in chat, and then we can call on you, Tug, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of your experience as a solutions engineer?
I think one thing that I would like to share with you, typically with a lack of collaboration or communication between teams. Not long time ago, I was working with a government agency here in France, as you can guess from my accent. I am from France, and where the development team, the engineering team, engineering manager were very excited to put in place a new platform for development, faster development on collaborations, being able to do good CI/CD, as we will see later, and hopefully wanted to deploy in production as fast as possible. In the same time, they didn't communicate enough and early enough with the operation team talking about what they want to do, and nothing happened. So they were able to develop faster, they were able to package faster, but nothing happened to the deployment. So we start to see and discuss with the operation team. We as a GitHub team arrived a little bit after this fact. And we realized that not sharing the same goal at the beginning was a big issue, but also a big part of the problem was the trust, between the team. So the operation team didn't trust the development team to deliver proper software with good quality, having a good understanding of what the challenge of the operation team is or are. We always have to have a very clear communications, understanding of the challenges, and step after step, you will have the team solving that. Somebody asked about, you were just mentioning about DevSecOps. It will be very interesting to have, if somebody in the room wants to come online and turn on the camera to explain, for example, why do you think DevSecOps or security was an afterthought? Because this is exactly a good point where communication is key. Just sharing your experience is important for us. It's important for you also to understand which challenges did you get, on how have you solved them when you were starting to work together as a teams? Anybody wants to share something with us?
And as we're thinking about that, I did see in the chat that we had Mina Demian, sorry if I mispronounced that, who said that she's a front-end engineer and consultant in a government client. Mina, would you like to come on screen and share a little bit with us about what that is like and how you communicate within the government? I'm from America, and we have everyone knows the government is very bureaucratic and it's hard to collaborate. So I would love to hear about your experience maybe in different parts of the world if you're comfortable. And I believe you will go to sort of the bottom right side of your screen to come on. If not, you can just go ahead and let us know that that's not something you're comfortable with doing, and we will kind of move on. Oh, we got a sure 1 sec. So I'll just tell you a little bit about my experience while we're waiting for Mina to talk. I'm on more of the product marketing, product management side, and it is honestly so helpful for me to have the collaboration with the engineers and understand what all the different teams are. Frankly, I used to code. I'm not going into the code anymore, but I can come in and I can see, oh, we've pushed this release. Or we've brought it in, or we have a new issue, a new client issue, and it's all right there.
So,
yeah, Tug.
Gary asked a question about how do you sell the DevOps mindset methodology to colleagues from other backgrounds, like ETL, for example. I think
Yes.
the key
Tug,
part.
do we want to try to bring Gary on screen to explain a little bit more about what he's thinking, and then we can have a conversation about it? Because I think it's a really good question. Gary, if you want to come and join us on screen, I think we can have a couple of you on screen as well. We'll give you just a few seconds. The bottom right-hand side of your corner, you should be able to see like a video button. You might have to allow for some permissions. Looks like Mina is trying to get in here as well.
Looks like camera is hard to get today.
Maybe Athena, who's on our team, if you can provide some instructions in the chat on how to get on the oh, we got Gary. Gary, welcome to the show.
Hi there.
We think that this is a really great question. Got a lot of thumbs up. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're asking and why you're asking it?
Yeah, certainly. So hi there, everyone. It's nice to speak to everyone, and thanks for hosting this event. So yeah, my name is Gary. There's quite a few people from our team in here today. We work in the Ministry of Justice for the UK government.
Wow.
Yeah, and something that we have came across recently is our team is relatively far along, I would say, within our DevOps journey. And we were kind of thinking whilst we were in this meeting that this is all well and good us attending this meeting, but in actual fact, we need to relay this information back to other parts of the business and effectively convince them that DevOps is better than ITIL, pretty much. So yeah, that's a wee bit of background if you have any questions. So
not really a question, but also not directly to you or a comments on hoping that somebody else will jump also to share the experience is one of the key parts is you don't sell DevOps as a term or something. You really sell the goal of DevOps being you want to have faster time to market. When I say faster time to market is just make sure that you can deploy sooner, faster, but also do that in a very secure way, secure or reliable way. So everybody in the organization, I believe, if you say we will be able to deliver feature faster, we will be able to do it with a more stable fashion, they will accept that. Then you step back and you start the communication and the collaboration between the team. So what I mean by that is having the team be able to first where the challenge is. So typically working with your people working on ETL defining process, trying to see how you can match part of the process on the new way of working. So how do you define a specific target? Where do you define a specific metrics and adapt that to the flow? And obviously from an engineer point of view, and this is something we will see later, it starts with the automation part. And by trusting the people together, you should be able to achieve this. Anybody else would like to share? Because, you know, Shira and myself, we are working at GitHub. So first of all, we are not working in engineering teams. So we don't deliver the software directly, even if we communicate a lot with the product team on engineering. It will be very interesting to get some feedback from your experience. How did you share and improve the process?
I think I saw some good comments from Dill and Steven or Stefan, who maybe want to join us and Gary on stage. We can have a little bit of conversation. It sounds like Stefan or Steven is working on a smaller team and he's having some success. So if you two want to join us, I think we could, you know, really share some best practices. Interesting. So Stephen is saying that they were able to bring other developers into the design process. Technical teams it seems like all their technical teams sort of shared a Kanban board to really communicate.
It's really this part for me that is, obviously you always have to start small. It's not a big bang, right? If you go and you ask people that have been working for, when I take this example with the government agency, one of the biggest challenge, it's people saying, we have been doing that this way forever, so why changing? And once again, why changing? Because we can do it better for the customer, for the user, for the public. At the end, it's not about having, obviously we insist on the happiness of engineers, the happiness of IT people, but at the end is we want to have our users happy. So maybe Mina, you want to share, welcome on stage, and if you want to share some of your experience.
Sure. Sorry, it took me a while to figure out the video. But yeah, I'm glad to be here. And thank you for letting me be part of the conversation. Yeah, I'm part of, well, we're about 7 people in total, where we are 2 people in front end. And my experience, I've always dabbled in DevOps in my different roles and companies that I've worked at. But on this particular project, I had to really kind of drive it and take lead because the other person on my team isn't so comfortable doing DevOps. And my experience has been that I think it's easy to start doing DevOps, but to get the buy-in from everybody is hard. Not everybody's comfortable, and frankly, not everybody is interested in doing it. You have to like it. Yeah, you have to like it on some level, or at least think it's kind of cool. So what happens, I kind of did the groundwork. I laid the groundwork. We're working within, we're actually working with a completely different platform. But I thought that it would be like this natural progression where one person sets it up and then everybody kind of jumps on board, but which has not been my experience. It's even if you write the best documentation in the world with the most detailed instructions, the barrier to entry seems really high with DevOps. So what it's turned out on our team is that it's basically 2 people, myself and another senior guy, who have, in a way, we drive it, we've taken ownership, and we've just accepted that other people, you know, and I'm not saying I've given up. I'm just saying that I need to learn some new strategies, or just, you know, and like develop my own learning to know what to do next. But thank you for letting me share.
Yeah. Pavartha, as Tug's responding, I think sounds like you have some experience with this on as well. So we'll invite you to join us as Tug is responding.
This is what you said, Mina, is an important part. It's small step, baby step, like everything we do in IT. Usually you won't say, oh, I'm moving to the cloud tomorrow, or I am doing DevOps tomorrow. It's something we have to be honest about the impact we can have as a technical people. But in the same time, I am a big believer of results. When you have the result, when you can show to people the benefits, they will slowly, step by step, adapt. Even the people that were very skeptical at the beginning. So, because I'm sure that if I don't know how many people we are in the room today, but if we ask what is DevOps, we probably have 10, 20, 50 different view of the world. This is why we started with Shira to talk about really the cultural change at the beginning. It's something that we have to change, and changing people is the hardest. Changing a technology, it's easy. Switching from client server to web, it's technically you can do it. Where it's people, it's harder. But by communicating result, so if it's not coming from, for example, a very, very hard business need, because when it's coming from a business need, when you have to deliver very quickly something because you have competitions, because you have a big issue, you will adapt very quickly. If not, you take some time, baby step like you did. Two people will start to move the stones, and you will start to show. And I think it's important for example, when Gary asked the question, is by showing after 1, 2, or 3 release that transparently get the release out with no problem. Or even if they had a problem, they can roll back quickly the issue. You show the benefits of what they have done, what you do today compared with what you have done previously.
I'm going to go ahead and say something that might get me kicked out of GitHub right now, right? They're going to say, burn the witch. Well, DevOps is a culture change. It is not a technical change. There are technical changes that come with it, for sure, absolutely, but it's a culture change. And so this is a time where I'm actually going to encourage all of us in the room to learn from our sales teams and say, documentation's not going to cut it, right? Cool tools, not going to cut it. I think you're really pinpointing the right thing. You've got good documentation. You've got the right processes. We have to start to think about how are we bringing the people along in the journey? Why is this valuable to that team? How is it going to make their life easy? Think about it as the big bad word sales process of creating that culture change. And I know that feels icky and it feels like not what we do here, but I've been on the development side and I've been on the sales side. And let me tell you, they're both really hard jobs. And when you bring it together, it's probably harder than anything else. So please don't tell the rest of GitHub I said that we should maybe think like sales, but we really want to be thinking about selling the value of the culture change, as well as doing all of the documentation and the process change and the tool change. It seems like in the chat I may not get fired right this minute, but happy to continue this conversation all the time. This is one of the soapboxes I like to get on. At this point, I think, Tug, it makes sense for us to move on to point 2, which is going to be a little bit more technical in terms of that tooling. So if we want to bring up the
I think I don't even need to put the deck on. It's something because, and it's interesting to what you said, you know, when we talk about, and if you look at the questions, is very often when we talk about DevOps, we will focus on CI/CD. First, because we are engineers. So as an engineer, we want the tools, we want some technology to help us to solve something. And at GitHub, we usually, when we talk about CI/CD, we step back and we say, no, it's not about CI/CD, it's about automations. We want to automate everything as much as possible, right? And like I said before, step by step. So one part will be the CI is an automation, so continuous integration, making sure that all the all the tests are done automatically, all the packaging is done automatically, and you have the CD, the continuous development, that potentially help you to deploy completely from the commit to production without any human interaction. And I think here it's time also, as a follow-up to this discussion, to bring the second poll about the automation, and about how often do you in your organization deploy your application in production. So maybe Angelica, can you share the second poll, please, and we will see the feedback from the team, from the audience. No shame here, nothing bad. It's just, what do you do? How your team is working? Do you how often do you deploy? So it's this one will be interesting, because maybe if the same audience in 6 months from now we have the same survey, we will have an evolution in this time. So it's nice. So you can see the numbers. So we have a lot of people deploying weekly and monthly, and also almost 25% multiple time a day. So this one is exciting. So you probably have a lot of stuff to share with us today on this experience. And this is where the automation with CI/CD is key. And thanks for sharing this part. And I will, if some of you wants to share. So what will be interesting is for somebody that is not deploying very often. So when I will say not very often, it's once a year or once every quarter. Do you plan to go faster? Do you need to go faster? Because sometimes you don't need to go faster than what you have today. And for people, if you are deploying multiple time a week, multiple time a day, or every day, I will be very interested to hear from you on sharing with the rest of the audience. Let me just check the questions quickly.
Parvita, if you're able, we'd love to have you come join us. If you're not, I'll try to represent a little bit of what I think that you're saying. She's saying that, or he's saying that they're really starting to use those DORA metrics that you may have seen in the keynote yesterday, the SPACE framework, the Good Day Project, as well as Nicole Forsgren's previous work in the book Accelerate, to begin to start to measure their success so that they can get to the level of automation and collaboration that's going to result in some of those weekly, daily, or multiple times a day shipments. And that is so exciting, and we love to hear that. We really stand by those metrics all the time. It looks like we also have a comment from Dill. Once again, welcome on stage if you're able to turn your camera on, and we'd love to hear you talk about what you're saying. But Dill shares, we are interested in increasing developer productivity by allowing developers to install software tools or download open source binaries securely, get scanned and validated in Sandbox before it enters into our company network. Currently, we have no solution for this. Is that something that GitHub or other Microsoft solutions can resolve now, or are we working on a solution? So Tug, I'm gonna let you think about this a little bit. I think you have the question in front of you as well. But Dill, if you're there, we'd love to have you come on camera and explain what you're thinking a little bit more as well.
So on the pure security, what you are asking about security is really not inside the software factory when you are developing. If I understand correctly, it's before, when you want to bring stuff inside your software factory. One part that is interesting is if it's dependencies on libraries, so not the tools. You will have tools like security, that we include, like Dependabot. You will learn more tomorrow about security, where it gives you at least not the scan, but always an information that everything is up to date. And if we have a known vulnerability somewhere that has been discovered, you will be immediately alerted, and the system GitHub will help you to quickly patch or remediate to this issue. So open source library, yes, we have, you have everything you need as part of the dependable. For the tools itself, it's a little bit challenging. You have so many tools. So one thing that I will say is it depends which type of application you are building, which type of tools you are talking about. For example, what we see more and more, it's not about the development tools themselves, because programming language compiler, this one are kind of safe. You know which version you are using, and you can even use technology like code spaces to be sure that everything is running on GitHub Cloud. Nothing is coming inside your system until it's built. It's more about the libraries I just talked about. And if you are integrating, for example, containers, so you are building modern application with containers, you can also scan this using tools inside GitHub. When you bring them, when you build, when you deploy, you can scan in different parts the container. So it's this overall part is bringing trust and automation inside your system to be more productive and increase the developer productivity. Typically, it's a good example.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I need to apologize to everybody for not giving the best instructions in the world. For those of you who are trying to get on video, if you just click the raise hand button next to the chat window at the bottom of your screen, we can bring you on. That was sort of a mistake on my part. I just have a video button, so I assumed you did too. So Del, if you want to go ahead and see. This is my fault, everybody. I apologize. This was like my one job, right? Yell about sales and get the cameras on. So Dill, if you want to share a little bit about, I think Tug was bringing up some really good answers to the questions, but what prompted you to ask? Where are you really coming from?
So we've recently started our GitHub journey. We started DevOps journey a couple of years ago, transitioned some pipelines on Azure DevOps, and now we've started to move towards GitHub Enterprise. So we're getting used to all the new tools and GitHub Actions, but we're really at a point where how do we enable this? Because we've kind of looked at how we did it before as a central team as such, central DevOps services. How can we really push this? Because not everyone's interested in the topic. I think the barriers are too big, or the way we're communicating it is probably not optimum at the moment. We haven't really sold it as well. And I think we do certainly still have these siloed conflicts within the organization. And I really like the way, because I never thought of ITIL and DevOps as sort of going in two different directions. But now I think about it, actually, a lot of the bottlenecks are coming from the ops arena in effect, and these sort of old school processes. And that's really what's kind of limiting us. So we've been trying to merge all these various processes, merge DevOps into an existing organization, but maybe we're thinking about this the wrong way. But anyway, that's not really related to what I was asking. So as we've gone through this journey into GitHub enablement, we've also realized actually onboarding is so difficult. I mean, the time to market just to get your infrastructure up and running, your dev tool. So for developers, the developer experience, if I wanted to do it in an hour, it's impossible currently within our organization. So we were really looking at how do we automate all this tool provisioning, because we obviously want to give developers a good experience as well. So we want them to be able to bring on their own tools, but we've got such a bureaucratic process in terms of bringing in new software tools. We don't want to sort of disable that, but security is a big topic, as we all know. So I was thinking, surely there must be something out there in the market where people say, hey, this set of software is secure in a mirror somewhere. You can download it in a sandbox and then publish it into your network. Something like that, right? I was just like brainstorming it because it's a huge problem for us. It can take weeks to get developers set up. So not just a CI/CD problem or a DevOps problem. It's a broader problem for us.
This is a very, very interesting topic, and not directly a topic that is about the DevOps part, but really about the dev that will be the first part. And GitHub has been working for a long time with Microsoft and VS Code all together to answer exactly what you said about the onboarding part. Have you heard about GitHub Codespaces?
We just started to look at it.
Yeah,
we haven't explored deeply into it.
Because this is exactly the reason why it has been built. If you look at, I will take the example of GitHub itself. GitHub is developed with Ruby, but we have many components like a MySQL database, a Redis cache, Elastic, and many things. And when me as a developer, if I want to do something, it will take few hours, if not few days, to set up my environment on my machine, especially if I'm not used to work with Ruby. And what has been done is setting environment with GitHub Codespaces is the configurations, everything that has been selected for the development team is part of the repository. And you can immediately start an IDE, a development environment, so a VM or a container running in the cloud that contains all the secure kind of environment where you can develop. So the onboarding is a non-issue anymore. And when I'm saying that, you have to look at, for example, if you look at the keynote from yesterday, Alvin made a quick demonstration where he's modifying some code in few minutes from a container into the development environment. And then all the security will be for the libraries, it's done automatically with GitHub Dependable. Maybe Stefan, you want to add something or comments on this?
Hi guys, how's the mic first?
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Right. Yeah. Stephen, you got it right the first time. So yeah, I'm Stephen. I work for Groundwell. My company, well, not my company. I work for a printer that prints on the ground. So I'm just one of the software guys here, really interested in DevOps. I read a few of the books, and I'm just trying to bring it into this workplace. Interestingly, we've got a few challenges because there's a lot of cross-platform teams. I just work on the cloud stuff. So as a culture thing, like we discussed before, is the first thing we try to introduce is Kanban board and introducing that like collaboration. Because this, like, I know in bigger organizations, I imagine GitHub, like you have those security teams and, I don't know, many more. But for here, it's kind of like mechanical, cloud, and getting that communication through that Kanban board has really helped. In terms of the security, that's a new thing for me that I'm getting into. That's why I'm actually doing a dissertation report on that. So that's why I thought I'd ask the question about that terminology. But yeah, it's super cool. Sorry, I don't know what you want to say.
No, that's great. So let's dig into that just a little bit, right? So you said that you're starting your process with the Kanban board as a really simple process to increase that visibility. How has that worked? Has that changed the way that you guys have worked together?
So as there's a lot of teams in our organization, I really do like the GitHub Kanban board. It's really cool. I'm actually really like the new beta version of it. I like the automation. Yes. I'm actually going on it every day. Like, when's the new version coming out? So that's really helped within my software team. It's just trying to get that out wider. But it's like what you guys were saying before. You got to start something small. And for the rest of the technical team, we just started off with a whiteboard and Kanban. And I'm hoping that we'll transition over to fully to GitHub. In terms of improvement of communication, just like, it's DevOps and like it's sort of kind of going into that agile, isn't it? It's just having them meetings where we're all together and like, listen, I'm working on this problem today, and just communicating it across the team has helped a lot, because it might be someone that could go, oh, hey, I've experienced this problem, you know what I mean? That shift has improved, definitely.
And
Yeah.
I want to ask you one question. I see in the chat, I think it's Gary who was commenting, when making a very interesting comment. He said, when you work with this legacy thinking, people are worried about the changes. Putting in production is a big event, so people are worried about changing anything. How your teams or your teammates are reacting when you want to change? I'm not talking about an urgent fix bug, because in this case we need to go fast. But adding new feature, how you do that with your current organizations and teams?
So for new features, like it can bottle. If it's a new feature for the printer, it's a lot complicated process, because it's an actual
physical
printer.
stuff.
But for the physical, that's just a whole layer of complex. So we got to be really careful with updates, as you can imagine, because if we change something, that could break the whole system. But what we have is, like, I think every engineer loves it, don't they? Like the CI/CD pipeline. I think everyone that's introduced to DevOps, and me personally, when I was first reading it, was like CI/CD or DI, whatever the acronym is. I'm not really in charge of the releases, but they are. If it's database changes or something big, there's got to be a process for it, and that's slows it down a bit. But I don't know how else you can manage that personally.
But it's like we said at the beginning, it's a step by step, and you learn. And the more you automate, the more it will be easier and easier, because everything you have done automatically and very well tested before will be able to reproduce exactly the same way. This is one of the key part when we talk about automations and CI/CD script and GitHub workflow.
I guess my ambitions is to get that automation out for our range of printers for Groundwell. But that'll be amazing. That'll probably be right. It's a lot. We've got the stepping stones in there for the cloud infrastructure, but when it gets to printers, that's a whole level. So it's first steps. Got
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that those incremental changes are huge as well, and we shouldn't be poo-pooing them, right? Like, that's how we get this done. So I love to hear that.
Yeah.
Want to call on Connor Carr. We're going to do a little bit of public call out. It seems like you have really been thinking about this for a while and reading about this for a while. We'd love to have you join us on screen. He's not in a position to do that, so we're just going to move on with our lives. But I did see Jason Woods had some thoughts that he wanted to share. So Jason, if you want to go ahead and click the raise hand button, we would love to have you join Stephen and Tug and I on screen as well. And then definitely go ahead, look through the chat. It looks like, Jason is also in a really noisy place. Well, I hope you're having fun wherever you are. I'd like to think you're at, I don't know, Disney World, and that's why you can't join us on screen. But I think for those of you who are following the chat, they're throwing out a bunch of really good resources and other things to look at. I am going to go ahead and read Jason's question, Tug, and I think that this is going to be a good question for you to maybe respond to, even though Jason can't join us. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Sam, I see that you've been pretty active too, so we'd love to have you as well. So Jason says, as Dan mentioned, we set up new devs with WSL using Ansible. This enables them to get up to speed relatively quickly. But the principles transcend the tech involved, think ITIL-wise. I'm sure, maybe Tug, it might be easier if you just read this question since it's like many sentences, and then you can help summarize it.
Okay, yeah, okay. So So okay, so you have two parts. In one part is about the development environment, how you onboard people, and the other part was about having challenges when, for example, you want to do automated deployment on ETL because of the process makes that harder when you have to change something infrastructure-wise. On the first part about the development, on the onboarding, on the configuration, on the control of the developer environment, you have many solutions. So yes, we as GitHub, we said we talk about code spaces because it's a solution we have built in our product. And yes, you can use alternatives like WSL with the Linux kernel with Ansible. You can use some other tools like your own containers. Some.
Hi.
And then and for the ETL part, I just want to mention something before Sam takes the question, takes the comments, is on the fact that you can also, we talk a lot about application code on the way you deploy, keeping in mind that more and more infrastructure today could be infrastructure as code. Everything you do, Ansible is a good example, could be a code that you put in your repository and then push that the same way in an automatic way. So you will have the process, but the process will be done by a CI/CD workflow instead of a human with manual interactions. Maybe Sam, you want to comment on all the different topics we have covered so far? Some of them?
No, I was just coming back to the one about ITIL.
Yeah.
I was just saying when in a previous organization we had a thing there where our team was trying to introduce CI/CD and DevOps, and we had quite a rigid CAB process with ITIL, very structured around a big change board every week. So what really worked was so architecting up a diagram of how it's going to work, talking to the change leads and some of the ops guys and saying, look, these smaller releases, if we can map them, say like a minor release to what's in your standard change, they agreed to put it as a pre-approved. Yeah. So we could actually say front end changes for this particular website. These are fine to go through. If you're altering some layouts or colors or branding, we started small with those releases and got them on board and said, look, the time it takes for ops teams to deploy this, we can put this through Jenkins and out through GitHub Action eventually, which is going to save the time of ops team, okay, taking that over from network share, deploying it onto the web farm. And just starting small and building it up.
Yes.
But by bringing them all into the conversation rather than saying, oh, we're just going to go off and do it, you get that sort of DevOps culture going and people actually talking.
Yeah.
And then you also spark that interest because they might have just heard it. Some people might think of it as a term where it's bringing more bugs and issues to production, but it's just starting small and getting those conversations going.
Yeah, totally agree. It's very, very good feedback and experience. And it's always nice to have people that have the feet on the ground and experience with real life projects to share.
And absolutely, and one thing with the op guys, when we were bringing in Jenkins and then obviously GitHub Action saying, look, this is not going to replace your role. You can actually upskill, be a part of this, learn this tool and come on the journey. So yeah, that was it really.
I would love to just quickly ask, you talked a little bit about bringing people along, a little bit here and there. Were you able to use any automations to make this easier as well, to sort of expand the use case a little bit? Or is it still a manual effort? Yeah, you.
Oh no, definitely. that particular one was Bitbucket and Jenkins, but we can sort of transcend to GitHub Actions because you with GitHub you're going to get it all in one place.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely, it was showing rather than the traditional way of zip files or whatever go to a network share and ops guy push it over. Jenkins did that for them, published it out to the Windows web farm. So yeah, bringing that automation in, but also helping upskill these ops guys by saying, look, you can learn this automation as well.
Yeah, and something is interesting. Sorry, go.
I was just going to say one of the best things actually was a meeting where we had like a Glyphy diagram of exactly how it works. Clear layout. Here's the branches. Here's the cloud. Here's Jenkins, deploys it to that, and then here's a link to your change process, so they can see how it all fits together.
And I love this approach because this is typically you have a team leading it, but bringing everybody and ownership will be shared. And And typically you have also the opposite, not the opposite, but me as an apps developer, the way I've started to look at DevOps, at least at the automation part, it's because when you work using teams, using tools like GitHub, you have access to everything. So you can contribute or start to understand what the pipeline is doing. You try to see, you want to improve something, you can ask, and you use the collaboration of your infrastructure as code or deployment process. Even if I am an app developer, I can learn, I can contribute, and I can start to ask the DevOps or the ops expert, oh, by the way, why have you done that? Maybe we should improve this part. What do you think about this? So they will see not only everybody will try to improve the process, but also their role will be closer. The people should be closer, and it's coming naturally if you keep the collaboration as a tool. So if you let the people collaborate, you should not make silos where nobody can see. It's if you automate everything and you cannot, all the automation stuff is private. I'm not saying they could be separated like a GitOps approach, different repositories and so on, but make sure that developers can see how the deployment is done and make some contribution or comments.
Well, exactly, yeah, because if you've got everything in the repo there, like your GitHub Actions, so the devs, I came from the dev side of DevOps, you can lean more into the ops side because you're seeing how the automation goes out that side. You might have ops guys that can lean into the dev side of DevOps. And if it's all in the one repo, you can say, okay, this is what the action does. You might not necessarily write it all, but then you can understand it, how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I love it, but I'll stop talking for a bit.
Sam, I'm going to ask you to go ahead, step off screen, because unfortunately we just have a few minutes left and we have a few housekeeping things we want to do, including telling you all about our DevSecOps conversations for tomorrow. So
kick me off the stage, that's fine.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Just sweep you off. No one wants you here. No, we're just kidding. Thank you for joining us, Sam. We have a few requests for you. Number one is for those of you who were interested in digging in more into the security side of things, we have 2 sessions tomorrow that are going to be a similar format, conversations. Now we all know how to get our camera on. One of them that we really want to point you to is how to help developers prioritize security in software development. So this is really going to be about creating that culture of shifting left, that DevSecOps experience. You can check out the sort of InFocus website to register and find the link there. And then, you know what, let's actually, the key takeaways really quick. Don't have time to expand on all of them, but remember, it's culture. It's process changes that we are going to try to get to by automating as much as we can and simplifying as much as we can. So we have communicate, automate, and simplify. And once again, remember, it's a process and it's a journey, and we're going to learn from our failures. And if we don't get to the next slide, you know, I will have not succeeded. So we can go ahead and get to that feedback slide. If everybody wants to take out their phones or QR, however you want, we do have a feedback survey. This is a relatively new event for us InFocus. It's the second time we've been doing it. This is a relatively new sort of format of conversation for us. So when we say we want your feedback, this is not just because like, oh, this is what you're supposed to say. We actually want to know if this works or if we should be trying something different. So I can commit to you, we'll be reading every single one of those comments. Let us know if you liked us, if you liked the style, if you thought the content was good. Was it too technical? Was it not technical enough? Was it the kind of things that you wanted to get out of this? Because this is all still an experiment for us. And then finally, once again, a reminder of what we have in coming up tomorrow. We have one more slide. Well, first we have our thank you slide. So we have, once again, tomorrow we have how to help developers prioritize security in software development. And then we have our customer conversation, which is going to be, I believe, a little bit less interactive, but really have some of that customer yumminess, learn how other people are doing things with shipping secure software within the developer flow with Holcomb, Celius Network, and Solidify. And with that, I really do want to take the time to thank you all for being such great participants in this event. I apologize for not figuring out how to get you on screen earlier. I did meet my quota though. Some of you asked. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully you were able to learn from each other, and we were able to share some good ideas and thought topics. If you want to continue the conversation with us, you can go ahead and request a demo to talk to our sales and solutions engineering teams, as well as, anybody else we need to speak to. And with that, I'm going to say really from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being with us today. And thank you for being part of the GitHub community, whether it's the enterprise community, the open source community. We strive to be the home of all developers, and we love to see the excitement around the stuff that we're doing.
Thank you a lot. It was very nice to share your experience.
Awesome. And with that, we're going to go ahead and say goodbye and good morning, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are.
Bye.